you for joining us on this holiday weekend. Please stand as we get started this morning. We're going to declare to the Lord what we believe about Him. Sing along with us.
In this time of desperation, all is dark, you will see. There is only one foundation. We believe. In this broken generation, all is dark, you never see. There is only one salvation. We believe in God the Father. We believe in Jesus Christ. We believe in the Holy Spirit, and His given us new life. We believe in the crucifixion. We believe that He conquered death. We believe in the resurrection, and He's coming back again. We believe. So let our faith be more than bounds.
thank you. You can have a seat for a second. We want to thank everybody for joining us for worship today on this holiday weekend. A few announcements are in the bulletin. Remember mostly that our Wednesday night programs are going to start back this Wednesday, and that's for youth. That works better on TV. It's for youth, children, and family night supper. So we have a lot going on starting Wednesday. If you are going to come to family night supper, which we encourage everybody to do, the food and fellowship is great. Please call the church office Tuesday. It's closed tomorrow for the holiday, and make a reservation. What a lot of people do is they make what's called a permanent reservation, so you have to keep calling every week. So pay attention to that, and if you have a child or a grandchild, remind them that we're starting our new children's program back Wednesday. We got a new curriculum, new activities, new art. We have all kinds of cool stuff going on for the kids starting Wednesday, and our youth will start back to their combined small groups on Wednesday. So a lot going on starting this week, and we want to make sure that you participate and that you're involved. We do have communion today. Just to remind everybody that here in the warehouse and in the Methodist Church, we have what I call an open communion table, meaning that everybody's invited to participate, whether you're a member of this church or not, whether you regularly attend any church, you're certainly welcome, as Peter leads us today, to take communion and be part of that. I also do want to let everybody know I erased the prayer wall because it was a big mess. So if you have anybody that you would like for us to be praying for, I'm going to ask that you take a second on the way out the door today and add their name to the prayer wall so we can start praying for them. It was just kind of jumbled and I couldn't even tell who was on there, so I did erase it. So if you know of anybody in our community or in our church family that needs prayer, please take a second and stop on the way out and put their name on it for us so we can start praying for those people. We're going to do one more song here, and then Peter's going to come up with our message and communion.
There's a place when the heart is undefined. Closing. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire standing next to me. There was another in the walls holding back the sea. Should I ever be reminded of how I've been set free? There is a cross that
Thank you. You can be seated.
Good morning, all you beautiful people. Are you up? Oh, there we go. Good morning, all you beautiful people. Good morning. Welcome to our wonderful worship this morning. I know some of us are celebrating Labor Day by going to the beach or doing some nefarious or some exciting stuff like cooking out or hoping we get a big pay raise for doing absolutely nothing. Kind of like your preacher. That's a joke. But this morning, that's bad when you have to tell somebody it's a joke to get them to laugh. But anyway, today is Communion Sunday, and it's an important part for me, and I'd like to prepare our hearts for that. So this morning, I'd like for you to close your eyes. Just don't fall asleep, just close your eyes. The fall asleep part is not optional. Okay. And something that if you told somebody you would definitely be ashamed of. Okay, now I want you to imagine Jesus is coming to the room and he sits down and he's sitting with you. And for some crazy reason you decide to tell him what you've done. And as you tell him some of these things, you notice that there's no judgment in his eyes. He's not angry with you. He's not laughing at you. And when you get through, you expect him to say something sarcastic or something spiffy or something mean or give you some difficult homework. But he doesn't. All he says, because of what I've done on the cross, you are forgiven. And that's what I'd like for you to get as we go into communion. That no matter what you've done in your life, no matter where you've been, no matter what you're ashamed of, Jesus says, you're forgiven and I accept you. You can open your eyes. I don't know about you, but we all come up with who we think Jesus looks like and what we think Jesus is all about. When I was a little boy, I used to think Jesus had long hair and that he had a little bit of a tan, he had blue eyes, and he wore a robe and sandals, and there was always children running around him with bunny rabbits and little puppy dogs, and he was that kind of Jesus, and the little sheep would be in his arms, just like the pictures of the church. But as I've grown older, I've noticed that the stories about Jesus, they don't jive with that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to tell you why it's special afterwards. As I read the Bible on a deeper and deeper level, I found out, you know what, Jesus wept 2 times that we know at least. When Lazarus died, he was one of his friends, he was sad, he cried. Okay, think about that, a grown man crying. I used to think Jesus was weak until I realized his father was a stonemason, not just a woodcutter. They would go to this place called Diacapolis across the little lake over there, and they would help build the city for the Greeks and the Romans. And a lot of that was carved out of stone. I don't know about you, but has anybody ever chiseled stone? It's hard work. Even cutting wood is hard work. So I realized Jesus had some muscle on him. And he knew a little bit about hard work. And then I thought about that. That's kind of like what I like about Jesus. And so I got to see pictures like from Rembrandt where Jesus has got scalluses in his eyes and he's got muscles and he's tough. Then I read further that Jesus was one of those people that at times got sarcastic. You know, we don't think of Jesus getting sarcastic, but he called some of the religious, you whitewashed coffins. You're nice and pretty on the outside, but you a rotten corpse on the inside. You look nice, you clean up pretty good, but there's nothing living in your soul. Your soul is dead as can be. Because you're not about God's grace and about God's love. My mother and I actually talked about that one time. She's one of the greatest theologians I've ever met, and she pointed out something to me that has become more and more meaningful as the years came on. We used to talk about the 10 Commandments, and that if you don't follow the 10 Commandments, you'll go to hell. That's my evangelical brothers would tell me. And then she also pointed out that, you know, it's a lot deeper than that. If you read the story that Jesus preached on the Sermon on the Mount, that it's not just acting the committed adultery, you actually just look, and especially if there's a cotton shortage at the beach, if you think adulteral thoughts, guess what? It's as if you've done them. And it's not just killing somebody like they literally do, but that if you have anger, more particularly hatred to somebody, it's like you murdered them. And in fact, if you gossip somebody about them, what makes it extremely offensive to God is that you're not murdering them one time, but you're murdering them over and over. Every time you gossip about them every time you go over again. And then she said something remarkable. She said, you know, we have those habits and we try very hard not to do them. But there is something that Jesus said and God said, that God's love covers a multitude of sin. And that we may be broken and we may do things knowingly and sometimes unknowingly, but God's love will cover those sins if we be willing to love others that are broken like that, the same way God loves us. And she said, you know, if you are more forgiving and loving and kind person about other people's brokenness and lifestyles that we don't like, God will be loving and forgiving of ours in a similar way. And I like that. But the same God, the same Jesus that walked and talked with us, he also used to get, guess what? Angry. He would get angry and he would say, you know, this is a house of prayer. You turn it into a money-making business. Apparently the Jews had taken the temple, and particularly the court of the Gentiles, the place where Gentiles were expected to worship, and they turned it into a money exchange system where they made money going up and coming down. If they sold a dove to you, they made a profit. If they exchanged coins with you, they made a profit. And that's not what Jesus wanted that space to be used for. He wanted that space to be used for as a place where Gentiles could come and learn about Jesus. And in fact, if you look in the Old Testament, you look at the tabernacle, there is a court of the Gentiles. Jesus always wanted Gentiles to learn about it. That's not very often mentioned. It doesn't fit with a lot of theology. And in that space, we find today's story. Jesus left and went to a territory of Tyre, and he didn't want to know that he was in their house. However, he couldn't keep it a secret. Jesus was tired. He had fed 5,000 plus family. He had healed. He had kicked out demons. He had done all sorts of ministry. He was worn out. He preached a long, long sermon. He'd gone to the other side and done some more ministry. And finally he was worn out to his last breath. And along comes a finer physician woman, a Greek. And he says, my daughter's got a demon. Can you get rid of this demon for my daughter? And he says, look, I'm here for the Jewish people first. My job is to get them to change from the evil ways and follow me like I always wanted them to. We'll get to you later. You know, I'm here for the Jewish people. I'm not here for the dogs under the Jewish table. He uses some pretty heavy slang. In fact, it would have been the same way if he used the N word in America. When he was talking to them, he said, I've come here for the white folk. I ain't come for you. And so, instead of letting that get to her, she says, yes, Jesus, but, even the dogs get crumbs from the Jewish people under the table. You know, when we eat at our table, we always get paws off the table, and then we feed the little kitty cat at the table. I've done that all my life. You know, if you've got a little doggy, and mom and dad aren't watching, you take a little bit of your food and feed the doggy under the table. Afterwards, you know, it's part of the family, right? How many of you all feed your doggy, your kitty under the table? Okay. Don't show your mom so she knows you're doing it. And so she says that to Jesus, and Jesus goes, you know, you got a point. Go, and your daughter will be no longer tormented by that demon. Now, when we look at it, we go, you know, that wasn't nice, Jesus. Maybe Jesus was trying to work with the language of the day, and he was trying to teach them a lesson. But I think the first is always the most accurate. I think Jesus was aggravated. I think Jesus was tired. And I think Jesus, out of his frustration, said what he said. Now, is it a sin or not? I don't think so. I think it's just Jesus showing his humanity. That Jesus was just as human as we are. He struggled with lack of sleep. He became irritable. He got tired. At times he got angry. At times he was deeply grieved. Sometimes when he looked at what God was asking him to do, he bled blood out of his skin, saying, God, I can't do this. I can't die for these people since I don't have the strength. Is there another way we can do this? And then he says, but not my cup, yours. Another way I like to share this is, you see, Jesus came down and he went and he took off all the shiny, the spectacular, all that was miraculous, and he walked with people and he said, you know, I can see your very hearts. I know what's going on at your home and your health. I know what your fears are. I can see what's going on in your families and the relationships you have. I know about your struggles at school with your teacher. I'm there in the classroom with you. I know about how your friends treat you, those that like you, and those that gossip about you, and those that say lies about you. I'm in your business. I know when people are trying to cheat you. I'm there with you when I take care of your baby. I know your worries about your baby and its future. I've got this. I'm going to be with you all through your life when you, with your child. I know about the times you've cheated on your husband or your spouse. I know about the times you thought about it. I know about the times you've tried drugs and the times you haven't. I know about the times you cheated on your homework and the times you didn't do it. You have no secrets from me. But I didn't come here to make you miserable. I came here to be with you so that you can be a better person and know how much I love you. And that no matter what you're going through, I want to be that kind of friend that will never leave or forsake you. You see, I've been through what you've been through. I came from a family where they used to call me a bastard because my daddy, Joseph, wasn't my natural father in the sense that you have a biological father. So they used to tease me. Later my father died and I had to live in a single petrol house and I had to take care of Mary. I had to feed and take care of on a preacher's wage. I had brothers and sisters that didn't always believe that God had given me a special mission, and they would try and talk me out of it all the time. And sometimes even my mother would tell me to cool it. But I never ever stopped loving you. And after I died on the cross and went to be with the Father, I continually pray for you in groans, pains and hurts, and cry out to God in words that you probably would never understand, so that God, grace and love can be poured upon you. So what does that mean with communion? Communion is just a celebration of that. Because you see, when we take of the juice, we're reminded that that's God's blood being poured out for us on the cross, and then when he was punished over the rock with the cat and 9 tails or whatever they used, so that we can have forgiveness of sin, so that we can have that special relationship with God, and that we eat the bread because it reminds us how God's body was broken and how he died to pay for all the naughty things that we told him about at the beginning of our service. One of the reasons I love this, because this is the only story in all of faith where God cries, where God's broken, where God shows all the struggles that humans have because he comes and tries to live with them. He's not born with them. He's perfect. And he comes to earth to experience all the struggles we have on a personal level, so that he can understand us better and present that to God the Father. So this morning, when we take communion, and like we reminded, communion is for everybody. We have an open communion. Thank God for being your special friend. At this time, we're going to open. Well, we're going to try and open the bread. And remember, this is God's body broken for us. And then we're going to open the bottom, I think, and drink the strange juice. Remember, this is God's blood poured out for the many. Now ask God to make this magnificent and strange and wonderful act the symbol, and allow it to bless us, to keep us, to renew us now, in this life, and for all eternity, so that we can continue to be the redeemed of God. Amen.